Hi, thanks for joining me. I'm here on Wonder of the Seas, the world's largest cruise ship. And this is part 2 of my 3-part series on what it's like day by day to cruise on Royal Caribbean's beautiful ship, Wonder of the Seas. You're watching Cruising with Dee. I'm sitting here with my blueberry mojito. It is a non-alcoholic drink and it's made at the Boleros bar, and it is my favorite non-alcoholic drink on the ship. Really good. Here I have my salad sign card on my lanyard so I don't lose it. I tried to do without it and it doesn't work for me. So this is my vlog, and this is my sharing with you what days 3 and 4 of this sail have been like. This is the Eastern Caribbean sail. Started for ports Perfect Day at Coco Cay, St. Thomas, and St. Martin. So those are the 3 ports that we are going to. We've already been to a Perfect Day at Coco Cay, and now I'm going to tell you all about St. Thomas in this video. First, we're going to go and look at day 3. Let me put this thing down. That's so awesome. Okay, so day 3, woke on day 3, and it was another day of overcast and rain because of Tropical Storm Philippe. Not the most ideal start to the day, but that was okay. I ended up having my coffee as I like, the Cafe Promenade, which is on deck 5. I love their cappuccinos there. I get a grande, which is basically like 2 shots. And I took that up to the Park Cafe, where it's so nice and quiet. You're surrounded by the greenery. There's tables outside, and I can have a small breakfast without kind of the hubbub of the Windjammer, which is the buffet. There are other places also on the ship, but this is my favorite spot for a small bite for breakfast. There's fruit. There's several types of breakfast sandwiches. There's juice and regular coffee. But I like my espresso, so I bring my espresso up there. Slept in, so I missed the dance fitness class that they do at Boleros 2 times on the cruise. This was the first time, and I really, really wanted to go, but I also wanted to sleep. I was real tired from my day at Coco Cay the day before. After I had my breakfast, I went up to the solarium. Since it was still kind of rainy and miserable, I people watched, got to look at the oceans, enjoy the solarium part of the ship. As mentioned, it is an 18 and above area. I had no trouble finding a lounger. I wasn't sure if it was going to be real competitive like at the pool, but there was no trouble finding a lounger in the morning at all. The attack of the ship has still been the boat motion from Philippe. We're still battling that. It's not really getting better. So that is something that we've had to deal with. So after spending some time in the solarium, I went down to hear the shopping talk. Can't remember the guy's last name, Van something. All I know is call 2222 if you need any assistance with shopping, which Royal Caribbean is more than happy to give you if you wish it. It was supposed to be a port and shopping talk. It was really heavy on the shopping and very little on the port, which I've come to expect on these ships, but I still wish that more port information would be given for those who do not wish to shop. And I'm just not a really huge shopper, so for me, it's interesting to see what's available at the different ports, but a shopping talk isn't something that I usually go out of my way to go to. And if I haven't mentioned, and I don't think I have, the 3rd day was a sea day. So it was just relaxation. When you're traveling solo, you can kind of go where your interest takes you. So I didn't plan the whole day out. I wanted to see where I ended up. But for lunch, I did have reservations on my unlimited dining plan for Izumi Sushi. And I really loved the sushi restaurant. I like the sushi restaurant on Carnival and some of the other brands that I've tried, but here I thought it was outstanding. I really loved the rolls. They had a fantastic spider roll, a lobster champagne roll. They also have things like teriyaki bowls, poke bowls. It's not just sushi, but the sushi that they do have, the rolls are fantastic. Very enjoyable lunch, and I was really glad that I had a chance to sample Izumi, and I highly, highly recommend it. I wandered around the ship a little bit, got myself another non-alcoholic drink, and then I ended up at the country line dancing class. I really do like to stay fit and active when I'm on cruises, and Wonder does have a walking track on 5, so that's lovely, and they also give some dancing classes. So as mentioned, for the morning, they had the dance fitness class, and then they had a country line dancing class, which was a blast. It was packed. The Boleros is not a really huge area to hold these classes. They have other bigger areas in the ship, so I hope they kind of work on that. But I enjoyed the class, very good teacher. And then the country trio that plays in the mason jar was playing at the Big Country Hat, which is on the promenade. So the whole class went down, and we did like the electric slide country dance all together out in the promenade, which was real hoot. And then I stayed and I listened. This country band was really good. They played a lot of favorites with like singing along. And I was singing at the top of my lungs, as I kind of tend to do. And right next to me were 2 other gals singing at the top of their lungs. And so after the music was over, I asked them where they were from. And crazy thing was, they were from my hometown. So I guess we really like to sing in Tennessee. So the first full sea day It was formal night. So people were dressed up, photos were being taken. The rain had abated. I was in Central Park listening to the jazz trio. And then I thought I would go over to the solo meetup. Many of these ships, Wonder of the Seas included, has all sorts of these meetups. They have them for LGBTQ, they have Friends of Bill, they have single meetups, and they have solo meetups. So this was not the single meetup. This was the meetup for solo travelers. And I may or may not have mentioned, but I am traveling solo on this cruise for the very first time. And I thought, well, this will be great. I can go meet a couple of people who are also traveling solo. So I went to the Trellis bar where it was being held. There was a guy with a name tag, and I walked up to him and I said, "Hi, I'm here for the solo meetup." And he said, "Oh my God, I forgot to take my name tag off." He was not there for the solo meetup. There was no one there, at least who would admit it, for the solo meetup. So that was a complete bust, but I got some sparkling water and I just went and listened to more of the jazz music before my dinner. My dinner was at Chops, which is the steakhouse here on Wonder of the Seas, and that is also in Central Park. So it's just a beautiful setting for some of these great restaurants like 150 Central Park and Chops and Giovanni's. They're all centered on this beautiful area of the ship. So I walked over there and Chops was very busy. When I went to 150 Central Park, it wasn't quite as busy. Well, this was just completely full. In fact, there was a wedding party like right next to me having the reception. So you had the bride in her beautiful outfit. I thought it was an excellent steakhouse. I had the jumbo shrimp cocktail, which was actually jumbo shrimp, very nice. I also had the filet mignon, and the meat was very good. I thought the sauces that you could get to accompany, I tried 2 of them, were like not good at all, like no taste. The sides were good. And I had the chocolate lava cake for dessert, which is just like Carnival's chocolate melting cake, except it's presented slightly differently, and I really liked it. It was delicious. So the boat is still continuing to move like crazy, but I decided to go to the silent party up in the solarium. If you've not been to a silent party, you get a set of headphones when you go in, and there's at least 2 channels, sometimes 3. You get to go pick your channel, so if you're sitting and watching this, there's no music except in the headphones of all the participants. And your headphone will glow the color of the track you're on, so blue or green. You can run up and you can dance with people who are in green if you want, or the blue people can get together, or it can just be like a weird mashup. And if you don't like what's on one track, you go to the other one. I prefer 3 tracks in competitions. I had that on Celebrity, and I thought it was a huge amount of fun. But the party was fun. The DJs, they played good music. And it was very well attended. And that is the silent party for adults. There's another silent party for children. I understand that will be held later in the week. So I left the silent party to go to the ice show where I had reservations. And it had got canceled because, unfortunately, 2 of the performers ended up having injury from the motion of the boat. Just like the first night when I had the aqua show and they couldn't do it because of the motion from Tropical Storm Philippe, they ended up moving it to be done later this week. I ended up having a very busy day on my Apple Watch. I had 13,500 steps. And I like to get a lot of steps, so that was good. And I was already very excited about St. Thomas the following morning. Unfortunately, at 4 a.m., there was an announcement by the captain in the staterooms, and it scared me to death. I was woken up out of a deep sleep. I've never had this happen on a cruise ship. I was convinced that something awful had happened and, big emergency for everyone. And it was a big emergency, but unfortunately, it was a medical emergency for one person, and they had to find a blood donor. I think they were looking for O negative, someone with a donor card that could donate blood for this person who had been injured. They had to do it. I mean, if it were my family or someone I knew, you'd want them to do it to save a life. And so it was the right thing to do, 100%. However, I could not get back to sleep. When you wake up out of a dead sleep sometime. So it was not a great situation. It was confirmed to me, though, that a helicopter rescue was made. And so there was an emergency evacuation of the person who is ill. And I have heard they're doing well. But again, I don't have any specific information on exactly what happened. And that was it. That was my 3rd day, my full sea day here on Wonder of the Seas. I kind of like the way the Eastern Caribbean itinerary goes. So, we started Port Canaveral. The first day, you get off right away on a beach day with a perfect day at Coco Cay, and then you have your 3rd day, so you get a sea day to kind of figure things out, and then we've got 2 port days, and then finally you have the last 2 days are sea days, so you get to just enjoy this ship as you head back from St. Martin. Day 4. Day 4 was St. Thomas, and it was a little rough getting excited for St. Thomas because Tropical Storm Philippe still had not moved its it still had not moved, and it was still causing all sorts of trouble. The sea was really very rough again last night, and everyone woke up to find out that almost all of the excursions for St. Thomas had been canceled because of the weather. They got hit really badly overnight. There was flooding. I got some flood warnings even on my phone overnight. My excursion was one of 7 out of all of them that was not canceled for the day. But all I had planned was, it was called the 5-star kind of island tour, and it included some beach time and downtown and one like tourist area. First thing I did when I woke up is I went to the Vitality Cafe to get coffee because someone said that there weren't very long lines there. So I went and I ordered my coffee, and then I sat and waited for 20 minutes, which I thought was very odd. And so I went up to the counter, and the woman who had taken my order was gone. And there were 2 gentlemen there, and they had no record of my order. I don't know what she did with my cup. She didn't like the way I looked. She was just in a bad mood, made a mistake. But anyway, no coffee. So 20 minutes, I could have been at Cafe Promenade and getting the coffee I liked. Anyway, the gentleman made me a coffee right away, and so fine. Because it was 10:30 at that point, I ended up missing breakfast at Park Cafe. So I decided to go to the Windjammer. I did want to try the buffet out. I went up there, and it was a zoo. I mean, there were so many people. I couldn't even find a place to sit. It was like bedlam. I'm not really a big buffet person, and I just didn't expect it. Some really big open areas, very different than the way Carnival does it, where you kind of have seating along the sides and some seating outside. It just slightly overwhelmed me. But I did get my breakfast there. I went and got some hash browns, some fruit. Again, like, I'm not a huge breakfast person, but I had put my coffee and some silverware and things down on a table because I found a spot, and like there were no open spots. I'm like, well, this is great. I wasn't gone very long. I come back, and of course, my brand new coffee that I waited 20 minutes for had been cleared away. I was very disappointed, and one of the staff must have seen the very disappointed look on my face, and they came up to me and they asked me what was wrong, and I told them what had happened. And there happens to be a place where you can also get espresso coffees, 2 places I believe, right at the Windjammer. They grabbed me a coffee right away, made everything very, very good. It was very kind of them. So I had my espresso and my breakfast up at the Windjammer. So I head back to my room, and there was this big hubbub on the Royal Promenade, and I go down to investigate, and I see a parade. So it's a giant parade that Royal Caribbean does. I think they do it twice a week, and it has pirates and dragons and Vikings and big sea battles, and it was a whole lot of fun. I had plenty of time to get ready for the port because we didn't get to St. Thomas until noon. Then after that, I went down to the Royal Theatre. It was time for meeting up for the excursions. And I get there, and they have towels and water available. And I had not brought a beach bag because I'm like, oh, do I really want to carry around towels when I'm going to be shopping later and doing other things? I hadn't prepared. So I'm like, well, do I have time to go back to my room and get my bag? And they're like, yes. Okay, great. So I go back to my room, come back to the Royal Theatre, and everyone's gone. Like, all the excursions had left. I wasn't gone that long. And so I'm standing there, and again, a really great staff member saw me and said, you need help. And they took me out and showed me where to meet my excursion, which I probably could have figured out on my own, but it was just nice because I was a little startled. So I ended up online for the excursion with no towel and no water and no place to get it right where the excursions were meeting up. And I normally wouldn't have worried too much about it, but they then told the people online that because of the storm that the beach was technically closed and there would be no services at the beach except for a restroom. So no chairs, no food, no water, and we were going to go there first. I'm like, well, I'll walk along the beach, or I'm going to sit in the sand. Hopefully it's not going to rain very hard because I am not prepared. So some people took the offer up of the tour company to get full refunds and decided that's not really what they wanted to do for their day. But again, I didn't know what I was going to do with my day otherwise, so I was still okay to go on the excursion. As it turned out, even though we were told we were going to the beach first, we didn't, which was great. We went up to MoutainTop instead, which is one of the highest points, if not the highest point. I'm going to have to look that up, for all of St. Thomas. And it's a bit of a tourist trap, but it's a good tourist trap. There's a giant store for souvenirs and gifts and all sorts of stuff. And it's home of the world-famous banana daiquiri, over 6 million sold. And now it's 6,000,001 because I did try it, and it was really quite good. And then the reason why you can forgive the big tourist trap is that they have a big viewing area outside where you get beautiful views of St. Thomas, St. John's, the British Virgin Islands, just really exceptional. And it was very foggy and rainy and overcast, so the views were not perfect, but I got some great pictures, and I really enjoyed getting to see St. Thomas from up top, because that's actually something I had not done the prior times I had been to St. Thomas. And then the good news for me, at this giant tourist mecca, I was able to find a beach towel for $6.99. That was like a St. Thomas beach towel. And I found water. So I had everything I needed. So the fact that we went to the beach second really worked out for me. Got to the beach, as they said, there were absolutely no services, but it had stopped raining at this point. And in this particular area, the wind was not that bad. But they said because of everything, we were only going to get an hour at the beach. And really, we could have stayed the full 2 hours in the original plan because it was so pleasant. There were restrooms. Yes, there was no food and drink, but it was beautiful and uncrowded. And Magen's Bay, absolutely gorgeous, even in overcast weather like that. So I wish we'd had more time. I do recommend this beach if you come on Wonder of the Seas. It is really, really a beautiful spot. The buses we were riding around on for this particular trip were those like jitney open like benches and open side, and turned out okay. Like the rain was very minor, if at all. It was just mostly wind and overcast. The last stop with our little open bus was over to downtown St. Thomas. One complaint for my particular bus, we had someone who was not great with English, and we very little tour. We just got like a tour and like things pointed out, and really that didn't happen for this particular tour. Charlotte Amalie is the main town on St. Thomas. We got there, we were met by one of the shopping representatives, and if you wanted, you could go to Diamond International. How are there this many Diamond Internationals? I've never purchased anything from one of them, but people must love them. They are everywhere. But there was a Diamond International there, and I normally don't go, but I wanted a little something to drink, so I kind of just marched along with the group, and I grabbed a water, and I grabbed the free bracelet. I don't even know what it was. And I walked out because I like to explore on my own. So I did, and they said no strings attached, right? By this time, the wind had really picked up. It was howling, like it was howling when we were on Coco Cay 2 days prior. I went and I had to sit by the water in the harbor and just look at it. So I crossed the very busy street in front of the harbor area, and I sat down, and you can see and listen to the incredible waves and the sound of the wind, again, just like on Coco Cay. I really enjoyed sitting there. It reminded me actually of being more in New England than being in the Caribbean. But it was beautiful in its own way. I love watching storms come in. It did start to rain a little bit, so I went back and I decided to go through some stores. Most of the stores were touristy and had souvenirs like Piranha Joe's. I found one little gem of a store that I really enjoyed shopping at, and that was the Harborfront Trading Company. This store has free trade items. It has handmade items by local artists, and I found myself a watercolor by a local artist that I want to use for my YouTube studio, and I also found a turtle for my son who collects turtles. They just had nice things that you don't see everywhere. After that, it started to pour rain. Caught the bus back to the port, and then it stopped raining, so I was able to get some photos of the ship. I like to do that whenever possible. It's a big ship, so it's hard to find it where it doesn't have things in front of it. And so it had a good view of it from the port area. By the way, the port that we were at was the Crown Bay Port. It is one of 2 ports in St. Thomas. There's Havensight, and then there's the Crown Bay Port, and that is where we were, in case you're wondering where these photos are from. Neither port is really close enough to walk to downtown. Tons of taxis available, but there can be really quite a lot of traffic. So if you're at this port, just be aware of that to leave enough time for traffic on your way back to the ship. So I got back to the ship just in time to change for my dinner at Hooked. Hooked is the seafood restaurant here on Wonder of the Seas. It has a real New England lobster shack vibe, very simple in its accoutrement, but it does look like it's in New England, which I liked. And it has fresh seafood. You can get fresh oysters. They have Maine lobster. And I'm a real seafood nut, so I really, really wanted to try it. And I'm glad I got to. I enjoyed it immensely. I had good service. I had cooked oysters. I love raw oysters, but because of my autoimmune issue, I can't really have them anymore. So I had oysters cooked 3 ways. They were really delicious. And I also had the soft shell crab. And then for my main, of course, I had the Maine lobster. And this was a genuine Maine lobster, fantastic tasting, tail, perfectly cooked. Really enjoyed it. Got into my head like, I can eat this. I can have this lobster like every single day if I plan right on the unlimited dining plan. Although I wonder if it would get boring like having Christmas every day. But I did look to see if I could make a lunch reservation for later in the week for Hooked, and it was completely booked up. So then I went down. I love to watch Latin dancing. I didn't have my husband, so I couldn't dance myself. So I went down to Boleros, and I thought, I'll sit here. This is great. There'll be lots of people dancing. There were like 3 couples dancing, and I think it's because they have the music up too loud. I thought it was blaring, like I couldn't even sit there and enjoy it. And I think it blares because it kind of it's open to the Royal Promenade. So I'm sure Royal has its reasons for wanting the sound up that high, but it wasn't a place I could sit and enjoy myself. So that was kind of sad. And then I went to the 80s party, and it's another place that ended up really loud. And I didn't think that the balloon drop party was too loud, but that was live music. And this was taped. And it was fun. They had people from the entertainment, a squad all dressed up in like 80s costumes and doing some dance moves. And Chris, the cruise director, I don't know if I can't remember if Chris, the cruise director, was there. But I think the Royal Promenade is a terrible place to have parties because it's a thoroughfare, and they put a stage sort of square in the middle of it over one side, and there was a balcony, and you have the entertainment staff dancing both on the stage and on the balcony. There's no place to dance. Like, I love 80s moves, and they actually had a great playlist, but absolutely no place to dance. And like, I went up above and looked, and most people weren't dancing because of just the crush of people. And I think Royal they can do some reworking of some of these parties or how they're handled, because I'm a Carnival girl. I like a good party, but I really couldn't enjoy myself. Then headed to my room. I had a little bit of work to do on this video. So day 5 is going to be really fun. We're going to St. Martin, and I've never been there. I hope the weather lets up, because this is starting to get a little exhausting. We still have rocking seas. We still have overcast weather, but we're hoping it's going to start clear up and that Tropical Storm Philippe gets out of our way. It has just wanted to take this cruise with us. It might as well just be on Wonder of the Seas, because it has been everywhere that we have been. But nevertheless, I'm still having a fantastic time. I love the ship. I love the staff. The specialty food is outstanding, and I can't wait to tell you about the rest of the trip. So thank you for joining me. If you are enjoying my videos, please subscribe, hit the like button, make sure you have notifications on. That really helps us, and it will help you know when we have content. So we've got more of these coming up. I have a lot of content coming up on Wonder of the Seas, brought back so much information, lots of video, and I can't wait to share it all with you. So thank you very much for joining me. You've been watching Cruising with Dee.